need to know that a lot of doctors, when they are sued, they come up with 4 typical defenses. And what are they? The first defense is they say, hey, why are you suing me? I did nothing wrong. The second defense was, if I did something wrong, so did you, Mr. Patient. The third defense is, hey, if I did something wrong and so did you, whatever I did didn't cause or contribute to your injury. And then, as a fourth defense, they say, you know what? If I did something wrong, and you did too, and I caused you harm, your harm isn't that bad. So they try and minimize the injuries. Another common defense that often we see in these cases is that the doctor says, listen, I didn't depart from good and accepted medical care. I didn't violate the standard of care. Instead, I used my best medical judgment about what treatment to offer this patient. And you know what? That's a very compelling argument. Because who are we to argue with a doctor who's choosing among different options available? And the juries like that argument. So how do we get around it? Well, it's not a matter of getting around it. It's a matter of showing the jury that the options that the doctor had deviated, and the one that he chose deviated from the standard of care. Now, why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because let's say you go to 5 different doctors, 4 of whom say, I would do the procedure that way. The 5th one says, I'd do it that way. Now, he's in the minority. The patient decides to go with that doctor. And lo and behold, the patient suffers an injury. And she sues the doctor. And the doctor says, hey, yes, I'm in the minority, but it's still acceptable to do what I did. And you know what? That's absolutely true. As long as the decision to do that particular procedure or treatment is within acceptable standards, we don't have a leg to stand on. But if it turns out that the doctor violated from the standard of care by choosing that option, now we've got a strong case. And let me illustrate that very vividly in a case that I handled involving a gentleman who was having difficulty urinating. So he goes to his urologist, and he's a young man, 37 years old, and the urologist recognizes that he has scar tissue in the tube that takes the urine from his kidneys out up through the penis called the urethra. And so in order to get rid of the scar tissue, the doctor has to go in with a knife and literally dig it out. It's called a cold knife urethrotomy. And it is as painful as it sounds. There's no anesthesia. All right, so this works for a couple of weeks, but it's a Band-Aid. And now the patient comes back in because now there's a restriction, there's a constriction again. The scar tissue has come back. And the doctor does the procedure again. And it works again for a couple of weeks, but then it comes right back. And the doctor says, you know what? There's a way to deal with this, a better option. I'm going to take you to the hospital, put you under anesthesia, and we're going to put into your body, into your urethra, a metal stent, a mesh stent. It's a coiled metal device that we snake it through your urethra, and it's spring-loaded so it opens up with the intention of keeping this tube open to allow the urine to pass through. This is designed to be permanent so that once it's opened up, over time, the tissues, the skin tissue inside the urethra, it's called epithelial cells, they grow over and it becomes embedded in this tube. And the patient says, fine, just do something. So that's what happens. Now during the procedure, the doctor puts in this stent and he puts it in the back towards the end of the urethra. And he says, you know what? I'm going to put in a second one, back to back. I think that'll be fine. So that's what he does. So now the patient goes home. And you know what? This stent, this device, works. But the problem is now there's urine coming out. He can't stop it. Okay, that can be dealt with. The doctor gave him some medication to try and slow it down and stop. And that worked. There was one problem, though, and it was a significant problem. The problem was that every morning when this gentleman woke up, he had an erection to go to the bathroom. And not only did he have the intention and desire to go to the bathroom, but every time he maintained an erection, he was in the most agonizing, excruciating, horrendous amount of pain he had ever been in his life. And this was happening on a daily basis.